Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Siouxland Sports Insider High School Football Podcast. We are officially into postseason play here on the podcast. South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska. Well, they are all in it. I'm joined by my partner, Marty Millard. Marty, it is crazy to think about. We had some really interesting games in the postseason play for the smaller schools, and even some really interesting games finishing out the regular season for those bigger schools. And it's providing some really good key matchups to start off this week. It is the last week here in October, and there's a good feel with the World Series going on. This is a just kind of a playoff
Yeah.
atmosphere, and I'm excited for
Mhm.
the games we have on slate. And we'll jump right into them. But first off, we'd like to thank our sponsors that make this always
Yeah,
possible. Jersey Mike's of Sioux
definitely.
City, Game Day Men's Health of the Dunes, and then our newest sponsor, the Dons, located in South Sioux City and on Line Drive in Sioux City as well. Huge sponsorship pickup there. Thanks to Marty and thanks to the Dons. They'll be covering us and following us all the way into basketball season and then even into baseball season as well. So we thank the Dons for their support
Yep.
and go on, stop out to the Dons, grab yourself a burger and some drinks, Saturday, Sunday fun days there for you as well. Well, we'll start in the state of South Dakota. We have one game, and it's been a team that we've been following for a long time, Marty. These
Mhm.
Huskies of Elk Point Jefferson now going up against an opponent that they played just 2 weeks ago. Their
Yeah.
last regular season game, and they have this is a team that is a very physical team, probably one of the more physical teams that they're going to face, and a team that they've given up the most points against all season. Now, EPJ kind of limps into this game a little bit banged up. I don't know the health of a lot of their players, but against Flandreau, they were able to escape with a nice victory. But giving up 26 points to Sioux Valley, winning 41-26, it's eye opening on this one because if they want to keep winning, they have to win this game and then two more to hoist a
Yeah.
trophy and to be state champions. But this is definitely going to be their hardest test coming up here, and just on how physical Sioux Valley is.
Yeah, I agree, Mitch. And one thing about this EPJ team is they have developed some depth over the course of the season, and they may have to call upon some of that during this postseason run here. But they've been steady Eddie all year long. And I look for more of the same from EPJ. They'll be at home. You and I are going to attend that game tomorrow night. Looking forward to it, and should be a hard hitting game.
Yeah, and that game is Thursday night. Now, for the state of South Dakota, they play all their 11B games on Thursday. And then I think next week they switched over to Friday. And then obviously the championship game will be on Friday as well. And the higher classes, I believe some classes do play on Saturday at the Dome up in Vermilion. Just basically, I think to put into perspective, this team is very senior led. So I think if a lot of guys that have some nagging injuries and stuff, they want to go out hoisting that trophy. Like this is what they worked on, their whole season, a lot of the time last year. This is a Sioux Valley team that is kind of like winner in a sense. Like they've met up and, EPJ's taken them out of the playoffs. Sioux Valley's taken EPJ out of the playoffs before. So there's a little bit of a more intense rivalry than people kind of see here. And this is a team this is going to be the hardest hitting game that EPJ has had all season. And just to being able to weather the storm. I know obviously they want to get out of the gates quick, get on the scoreboard right away, establish the tempo that they want to run and then play solid defense how they have all year. And
Mhm.
I think just getting that, Coach Terry's going to put in a good game plan. And I think if they're able to execute that game plan, they'll come out victorious. But it'll be interesting to see come tomorrow night on, who's strapping up the pads and playing the full four quarters. And, if they're going to need those guys that are a little banged up to play, both sides of the
Right.
ball as how they have needed to all season. We'll jump right into the score predictions. Marty, I'll go first, at least for this matchup. Last meeting, like I talked about, was 41-26. I think this meeting is kind of similar. I'll drop the points down a little bit. I got 35-21. I do think the Huskies do prevail. As you talked about, they have really good depth coming up in multiple positions. So I do think that they will prevail. I got 35-21 Huskies.
I'm going to go 27-14 EPJ. I think there's going to be a lot of running in this game. I think the clock's going to be moving pretty consistently. I like EPJ to get over the hump here with this one, with a total team effort, of course, on both sides of football.
Should be a good one. We'll move into Class A now. No local teams made it in 8-man. Definitely some scores I'm going to be paying attention to in A man, obviously with how much scoring can happen in that neck of the woods. But we'll go into Class A now. Galen Catholic, I think, was the story of Siouxland last
Yeah.
week, beating West Hancock. I mean, I didn't give them a shot in the dark to win that game, and that's no
No.
disrespect to that Galen team, but it just West Hancock, they throw on their practice jerseys, they go out onto the field, and they just beat everyone that's in front of them. It's the first time since 2020, since West Hancock has not reached the dome and has lost
Wow.
in a
It's
game.
incredible.
Not even just reached the dome. It's the first time since 2020 that they've lost a regular season game,
Yeah.
not in the postseason, like at the dome. So for Galen to be able to do that, that was extremely impressive. And now just for beating the one of the best teams in Class A for the last 10, 15, 20 years, now you get to go and play the number one team in our area in MMCRU. Congrats, United up, strap it up, and do it again. I think this Galen team has as good a shot as any to have back-to-back upsets. It'll just be really difficult. This MMCRU team has been polished all season long. Obviously, the loss to Glassmaker at linebacker was huge for them, but Harpenau's played well. Schmillen's played well, both Michael and John. This team is one of the better teams that I've seen in person. The game against West Sioux, that I thought was just going to be an absolute, torch of a gunfight, ended up being a low scoring game. The defenses both came up to and showed out how to play, and they got key plays on offense when they needed it. I think this is just more of a complete team. And I do like MMCRU to win this one, but of all the heroics that we've seen, just what a crazy game from Galen.
Yeah.
Just a week ago, beating West Hancock. These two teams have met before this season. Galen Catholic played MMCRU, I believe, at MMCRU. So it's the second time they will be on the road. MMCRU won that game. Actually, I believe the game was at Galen, if I remember right. So MMCRU did win that game 28-7. And I'm going to go a little bit more points here. But Marty, I want to first get your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think Eli Harpenau has been fantastic all season long. He does it through the air, he does it on the ground. Over 1,300 yards passing, 15 touchdowns through the air, and 8 on the ground. I like MMCRU in this one, 34, and Galen Catholic. Hats off to them. I think they come up short this week, 14. So I'll go 34-14.
I have 35-14, so we're in the same
Yeah,
kind of ballpark, Marty. I do think MMCRU and depending on how this next matchup goes, we can have a Siouxland Sports Insider matchup of the week coming up next week if both teams are to win. Obviously, this next matchup
right.
being the Woodbury Central Wildcats against Madrid. Madrid comes into this game a team that runs the ball extremely, extremely well. They have a quarterback that's more of a dual threat option. Logan Velke has thrown for 542 yards, which, in Class A really isn't overly impressive. But what he's done is carried the ball 78 times for 807 yards and 11 touchdowns. His dual threat ability is going to be something that Woodbury Central is going to have to really key in on. And I think a team that likes to drain the clock and play the possession game, Woodbury Central's kind of struggled with this year. They won a couple games like that, 21-14. We saw just in their last game against HSTW, they did the same thing. They played solid defense, just
Sure.
drain that clock out, scored a touchdown late, and then tried to get the onside kick. And the final score on that one was 21-14. I get a feeling the game's going to be kind of just like that. Madrid runs their offense the exact same way. But I still think that the leadership out of the junior Jackson Verscher is going to propel Woodbury Central to win. I like them in a score they've been very familiar with all season at 21-14 and going on to play MMCRU in the next round.
Yeah, that's a good analysis. You know me, I've been high on Jackson Verschoor all season long. He's really had a fantastic season. And then you got sophomore Abe McGill, which kind of, the name McGill is a pretty familiar one over in the Mobile area. And Jaden Lloyd's really stepped up at receiver, 43 catches, 659 yards. I like Woodbury Central 24 and Madrid 20. I do think it'll be a one-score game, and I'm on board with you. This has kind of been the trend lately here. So, hopefully Woodbury Central can get up early and then fend them off here in the fourth quarter.
A big thing to look for too is obviously Velke being the dual threat athlete that he is, that he can pass and throw. Watch the defensive line of Woodbury Central. They have two really good edge rushers. Their line
Yeah.
has been good all season at creating pressure for the quarterback. I think they're going to want to keep him inside the pocket, force Madrid to throw the football, and if
Mhm.
they're able to, really get home with three guys rushing and dropping everyone back into coverage, or maybe even four guys rushing, if they're able to create pressure without blitzing, that'll be a huge benefit for Woodbury Central. Look for the defensive line to be a big factor in that game. Moving on
Okay.
to our next one, we'll go up to Class A now. Lawton Bronson taking on a familiar foe and a team that's been dynamite all season in West Lyon. The West Lyon team comes in at 9-0, I believe, ranked in the top of Class 1A. The last time these two teams played, Marty, it was kind of an ugly one for Lawton Bronson. They shut down Noah Drew, and West Line won that one 56-6. This West Line team they were dominant last year. They haven't missed a beat this year. And I'm not
Yeah.
taking anything away. Lawton Bronson's victory last week was an impressive one, and this is a team that's a lot better than their record shows at five and
Oh,
four.
yeah.
Noah Drew,
Yep.
I think, has had one of the best upgrades in a junior to a senior season that I've seen in a long time. And a guy that doesn't get talked about enough on the defensive side, Lane Mitchell,
Lane
is four
Mitchell, yeah.
tackles away from 100 tackles.
Ooh, amazing.
And he's got 11 and a half tackles for loss. Like, Marty, we've played 9 games this year, and Lane Mitchell's averaging right around 11 tackles a game. 11 a game is
Amazing.
insane. And just the control that they've had on both sides of the ball, they've had some really big upsets. They've also lost some games I think that they've been in, that they kind of let slip away too. So I think, obviously it's unfortunate that they have to run into the juggernaut that is West Lyon.
Yeah.
And I do see a similar score of last time these two teams met up. But I think Lawton has a little bit more in the tank, and I think that the score is a little closer. I'm going to go West Lyon victorious in this one, but I'll go 45-14. So not as dominant of a win as they have seen in the past. West Lyon has, but I still think they handle business, and I think Lawton Bronson ends their season up in West Lyon.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the better coaching jobs in the Siouxland area this year comes right out of Lawton there. Lawton Bronson they took their lumps last year and the year prior, and they've made some changes there, and the kids have bought in. I think that the coaching staff has really earned the players' trust, and that's the next step in becoming a very good team consistently. So really impressed with what they've done. Fortunately, they drew the short straw, like you mentioned, with West Lyon. I like West Lyon 42 and Lawton Bronson 12.
Moving on to the last game in Class 1A, Hinton, a team that's been roller coasterish, is I think the
Yeah.
best adjective for
Can't get
them.
a read on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you have Logan Kempema who returns. You have Tommy Tanner who returns as a senior. Cole Friesen takes over for Anderson at quarterback slash running back. And, this team still plays solid defense, but it's giving up more points than they are normally accustomed to. They're playing a trainer team now that is extremely balanced. They have a running back that is a true running back in Sorensen, who is a yard short of 1,000 yards on the season and 13 touchdowns, but also are able to throw the ball with Ethan Hill, who's got a completion percentage well over 75% on the season and just shy of 1,500 yards. This Hinton defense is going to be tested very, very early and often in this one. Uh, I think they have enough in the tank to keep it close, but Trainer's only loss on the season, I believe, is to a Van Meter team who's very good. And
Yeah.
it was actually, they got shut out in that game. So this team is kind of firing on all cylinders. It's a little bit of a road test too for Hinton. They got to travel all the way over to Trainer, which isn't as far as some people have to travel, but still that added travel
Right.
rather than going just up the road or down the road is a lot different in the playoffs. I think Hinton had a phenomenal season from where they started out. And like you said, we couldn't get a solid read on them all year. We just didn't know what team was going to show up, if it was going to be the Hinton of old
Yeah.
or kind of this new team. I think Cole Friesen has a really good game in this one. I think the defense plays well. I think a late score takes it from a one possession game to a two possession game. And I have Trainer winning this one 35-21. I think there's a lot of fireworks early. Both defenses kind of settle in, and I think there's a late score that pulls Trainer away by more than just a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Hinton. I know I wasn't on their wagon last week, and that's my fault, but they've really done a good job considering the firepower that they lost from last year's team. They just aren't as explosive this year on the offensive side of the ball. And what more can you say about Cole Friesen? Senior plays his heart out every Friday night, and he puts it on the line every week. I do lean towards Trainer here. And I like Trainer 28 and Hinton 14 for a final.
And we'll move into Class 2A now. Unity Christian, and kind of their season. I think you look at it, if you looked at any team that we're covering this week, and a team that doesn't play like their record shows, I think you could look at Lawton Bronson on one side, and I think the next team that you look at is Unity Christian. They come into this
Yeah.
game at 4-5, and they've beaten some really good teams and lost to some really bad teams. So another team that you really can't get a read on,
Yeah.
going up against a team that played in quite possibly the game of the year last week,
Right.
and Spirit Lake
Yep.
played Cherokee Washington, and
Mhm.
Jackson Paulsra 346 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. By the way, he also had 17 and a half tackles and 3
Yeah.
tackles for the loss. In their first game, because these two teams have met up earlier this season. If I told you that, like I said, Unity Christian beats up on some good teams, Unity Christian won this game 33-6 this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they took Jackson out of the game. Like, I think he was 7-21 passing and had 1 touchdown through the air. The biggest thing is taking his legs away from him. He's rushed for almost 1,500 yards on the ground and 23 touchdowns. Obviously, the performance that he had from last week, I think they try to build on that. I'm not saying that it was a fluke on how Unity won last week or last time they played, because I think Dylan Bozma's had an outstanding senior season at quarterback. I like Cherokee riding the momentum of that win last week. Now, don't get too high on that, and
Uh-huh.
just sit there and just let that all soak in. I know, obviously, we talked about Jackson. He probably was in the cold tub or the hot tub
Yeah.
right after that game, just loosening and just making sure he was able to recover. I think the point of emphasis for Unity is going to be to try to take Jackson out of the game. I don't know if they're going to be able to do so. This game is going to be really close. I have it being the closest game we cover all week. And I
Uh-huh.
do have Cherokee prevailing in this one. I think that they ride the momentum from last week. They don't get too high on themselves, and they're able to beat Unity at home. Cherokee wins this one by a score of 31-28, Marty.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, what more can you say about Paulsrud? I mean, headed to Air Force Academy, going to compete in football there. He'll be a great addition to the roster. He has so much versatility about him, and I know that he'll be in the defensive backfield to begin with, but he's kind of another guy. He reminds me of a Zach Lutmer type that just has a good skill set, good athlete, and he can help you all over the field. Yeah, Unity Christian, they've had a great year. And the one thing they have is that tape from earlier when they did defeat Cherokee Washington. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I've got Unity in the upset 27 and Cherokee 20.
All right, all right. Now, a team that played also earlier in the year, still staying in Class 2A, one of the more dominant teams and dominant players that I think has a chance to win, not only in 2A, Mr. Iowa football, but in all classes, and that is Kemper Catholic and Brock Batting. 2,100 yards through the air and 28 touchdowns, and he also added
Yeah.
a rushing touchdown. But how accurate he is with the ball and the playmakers that they have, like, this team has been consistently 1 or 2 in Class 2A all year, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to change. Now, this game, when they played last time, was down in Carroll, or the Kemper area, and was close until about halftime, and then Kemper pulled away. Now, we've seen this OABCIG team for most of the year play their quarterback in Rafe Jensen. I think in 2 games ago, Rafe was dealing with a little bit of injury, and they threw Jax DeJean in at quarterback. And what does Jax do? Oh, just 2 touchdowns to the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I don't think Kemper saw that last time, and I'm not saying that you completely switch up your game plan, but I
Uh-huh.
think getting the ball into Jax's hands more often than just a couple screen passes or relying for him to make a play on defense, I think you have to give your biggest players the ball more often. So if you know Jax lines up in the wildcat position a couple times, I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea. Rafe is an exceptional athlete, and he can throw the ball well. The biggest knock I've had on him all year is I feel like he tries to extend plays a little too much and turns the ball over. But if they're able to control the tempo in this game, limit Carroll's possessions, and they take care of the football and then throw a couple wrinkles that Kemper hasn't seen yet, this game's going to be very close.
Yeah.
Now, I think Kemper ends up winning, and I think Brock throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns, and they're able to pull away late. But I got OABCIG 28, Kemper Catholic 42. I
Uh-huh.
think it's a close game. I think it's like 35-28 going into the last couple minutes. OABCIG has a turnover on downs or just a turnover, and Kemper capitalizes and makes it a 14-point game at the end of the game. But I think this is going to be Kemper's biggest and best test on the season because, like you talked about with our last game, OABCIG has tape on them, and
Yeah.
they're gonna go to their tendencies and be able to pick it out. I like the OABCIG staff. I think they're
Yeah.
gonna have their guys ready and good to go. And
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be a couple wrinkles that Kemper hasn't seen, and I believe it'll be with Jax holding the football, whether that's running or throwing, that makes
Uh-huh.
this game a lot more uncomfortable than what they've seen all year. But I do like Kemper prevailing, especially because they are at home. I think if you go on the road, it's a whole different team, whole different environment. But them playing in front of their home fans will give them that extra, I believe, touchdown push that they're gonna need.
Yeah. That's a great analysis, Mitch. When I look at OABCIG and you had mentioned the coaching staff, Coach Larry Allen's been there, done that, and he does have a really good tight knit staff. So I'm sure they've broke down that tape as much as they could. They'll have some new wrinkles for him. I'm on board with you. Love Rafe Jensen. I think Jax DeJean needs at least 10 to 12 touches in this ball game. I've been looking at this one. I've kind of thought, is this the right spot? Kemper's been impressive all season, but I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger, man. I think OABCIG figures things out and pulls one of the bigger upsets of the postseason here. I'm going to
Whoa.
say OABCIG 28 and Kemper Catholic 21.
Whoa, okay. I did not see that
Yeah,
coming. You switched
yeah,
that up because before we were talking, okay, all right.
yeah,
I've talked myself in and out of bets and different things before too. So moving moving on to 3A, and this is an interesting matchup because going into last week, I thought that Heelan's only loss on their record was to East in one of the craziest games I've ever seen.
yeah. 42,
And
41.
then they go and face Algona on the road, which I thought was a for sure win for Heelan. They didn't play their best game defensively. They screwed up on some assignments, and it
Uh-huh.
almost happened at the perfect time for them. Because I think you look at that game, and now a team like Atlantic can look at that and go, "Oh, they just lost." We'll
Yeah,
nitpick and try to do everything that Algona did, but Heelan, just like a lot of other teams around here, has a coaching staff that's going to fix that right away. Those kids aren't
right.
going to make the same mental mistakes. But then you look at on the Heelan side as well too. Atlantic just lost last week as well. They got beat by Carroll
Yeah,
35-7. So both
yeah.
these teams are coming off a loss, kind of backpedaling into the playoffs. This game to me, if Heelan is for real and they want to not just get to the dome but win it,
Uh-huh.
they have to come on and prove a statement to me in this game against Atlantic. If you're playing at home, this Atlantic team is very run heavy. Ethan McNeil Jr. has ran for 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns on 20 more carries than what Cason Thomas has. Cason's gotten in the end zone a lot more, but this is
Uh-huh.
going to be a game of controlling the trenches and whose running back is better. Now,
Yeah.
me from seeing Keelan and seeing Cason Thomas, I do believe that Cason is the better running back. But you're
Uh-huh.
gonna have to go out and prove it on Friday night. I think
Yeah.
this game is low scoring. I think it's close, but I want to see that Heelan defense that we've seen week in and week out. I mean, obviously minus the East game because there were just fireworks everywhere.
Yeah.
But play solid on special teams. Play solid on defense. If you're Noah Conley, if you don't have to throw the ball more than 10 times in the game, it's fine, but just take care of the football. I
Uh-huh.
think Heelan does. I think they get a turnover late with their pressure. We talked about Zach Harpinall all year. I think they put him on a late blitz, along with Kaysen, force pressure, and get Zayden Parker to throw an interception. And I got Heelan winning this one in a low scoring, close contest of 21-14.
All right. Yeah, I agree with pretty much most of what you say. I do believe Heelan will be ready. I'm going to attend this game, so I'm excited about this matchup. Heelan, Kason Thomas, his heart and soul, he's been Heelan, and he's really played hard for for you. Like, I'm looking at the defense, and I'm looking at Thomas to have a big night, Avery Favors, and Caden Lester on the back end. Those guys have been solid. And then Zach Harpenow, linebacker, 56 tackles. He's steady. He calls all the plays on defense. Just a real heady football player. I'm going to go with Heelan 24 and Atlantic 14 on Friday evening.
All right, moving on to a 4A matchup that these two teams have met before. Interesting note too on the Hilo Atlantic matchup. They have met before, but that was all the way back in 2007. I know some of the kids that are at Bishop Heelan weren't even alive then, so that makes
No.
me feel super old. So I love
Yeah.
that. But Heelan did win that matchup 35-6. So, interesting note there as well. We'll go to it in 4A, the matchup of teams that have already played each other. And this game, when I was following on Twitter, Marty, it was like 7-7.
Mhm.
It was close to start
Yeah.
the game between Lamar's and Sergeant Bluff. And then Lamar's just kind of didn't have anything left in the tank, and Sergeant Bluff went to their ways of the ground and pound. I see a lot of the same. Sergeant Bluff is just a complete team.
Mhm.
I would love to see them play Heelan again because I think the game flows a lot better with Sergeant Bluff now. I'm still not saying that Sergeant Bluff wins. I just think it's a little bit better of a game back and forth, and there's not as much offensive drives that are stalled by either team because I think both teams have kind of caught a rhythm as the season has gone
Yeah.
on. But their only loss is to Bishop Heelan. They've beaten some teams that I thought on their schedule they were going to have some trouble with, and they didn't. Fort Dodge was
Mhm.
one of them. Lewis Central was another. And this Sergeant Bluff team is as good of a team that I've seen that them have in a long time. And with their draws, and depending on who they get next round, if they beat Lamar's, this team is poised to go to the Dome and win
Mhm.
some games at the Dome. I think with just how they're set up defensively and then the offense, I have yet to see a team besides Heelan, and that was early in the season when they were kind of mismatched offensively and with their offensive line. But
Yeah.
later into the season, I've yet to see a team that's been able to line up against Sergeant Bluff, know they're going to run the football, and be able to stop it. This is a team that
Yeah.
averages close to 300 yards rushing a game. And
Mhm.
it's the identity that they come into every game with. They're like, we're gonna punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
And are you going to be able to hold on to all 8 rounds, or are you just going to lay down and just let us run all over you? Because so far, all these teams, that's all they've done. They've just ran all over every team. I think the balance they have rushing the football is incredible. You have a guy like in Houston that goes down and is out for, particularly most of the year with having season-ending surgery,
Mhm.
and it's the next guy up that steps up.
Yeah.
You have Hardy that's rushed, Maros, Jervik. You
Mhm.
you have guys that I mean they it's all by committee, and this team is very selfless to
Yeah.
where they're like, I don't care if I get 10 touches or 20 touches. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to block for my guys, and we're going to go and methodically drive down the field and score. And we're going to make the game miserable for the defense. And they've done so far. I don't know if much changes from their last score of 35-7. I think I give Lamar's maybe one more touchdown. And I'm going to go 35-14. I do have Sergeant Bluff winning this game, and I do have them advancing pretty far as well. Maybe just a homer pick, but I do have Sergeant Bluff going to the Dome this year.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Totally agree. Here's two contrasting styles here. Lamar's will put on an aerial show with senior Jamie Sitzman at quarterback, thrown for over 1,400 yards. You got Andrew Grant and Tyson Augustine out wide, serves as the main running back. But they're if they Lamar's, if they're going to score, it'll be through the air. So I look at Sergeant Bluff, they'll take the air out of the ball. You may look up after the first quarter at 7-0. If you're Lamar's and you get the ball at the 3-minute mark of the first quarter, they're going to have limited possessions. This is truly a Justin Smith coach team. They're very good. They peak at the right time. And I look for Sergeant Bluff to win this one 34 and the Bulldogs 17.
Final game of the slate that we have here, and it's 5A. Sioux City East hosting a playoff game, and this East team only lost is that game against Ankeny that we talked about could define how their season goes. Now they could have done what teams have done in the past and hang their heads and been like, yeah, we lost to Ankeny. Like I thought we were, in this upper echelon of teams in Class 5A, and then just kind of moped around the rest of the season and taking that loss too hard. But this team didn't. They got some guys back. And, offensively, I think they've looked a lot sharper since that Ankeny game. Cal's put on an exceptional senior season, throwing for over 2,100 yards. I believe he's second in 5A in passing.
Uh-huh.
Amos Collins did a really good job when he was needed. Now they have Randall Grecken back. So they have a two-headed monster at running back. Isaiah Grant at the wide receiver position,
Yeah.
obviously
He
special teams and wide receiver wise
Yeah, I
with
think
Ford
personally,
and then
I was just gonna say, not to interrupt you, I think Isaiah Grant, just a sophomore, he'll return next year for his junior year, and in my opinion, he has to be one of the top 3 receivers in the state when the season begins next year. He's
oh, for
phenomenal.
sure.
You don't take a workhorse to the Kentucky Derby, you take a thoroughbred. That kid's a thoroughbred. So, I mean, he's got a lot of good football in front of him, and he's drawing a lot of interest from some pretty big time D1 schools. So I'm going to enjoy another 2 years of him. So I'm looking forward to his play
Yeah,
this
should
Friday.
be absolutely. I mean, you put it on the other side, you really can't put a safety over to the side unless you're playing with two safeties because you still have to worry about Chris Ford, Chris
Yeah.
Loggins, and
Claiborne.
Claiborne.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just walk out there and be like, all right, we'll just put their best receiver on an island and let them beat us somewhere else
Yeah.
because they will beat you
Hmm.
somewhere else because they have
Yeah.
athletes everywhere. And I think, we talked to Cal a couple weeks ago, and he's like
Yeah.
this team is good. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if people understand how good this team is.
Hmm.
Then you go on the defensive side, and their D line solid, their secondary solid. Jacob Brayfogle, arguably one of the better linebackers that we've seen play,
He's
and
been
definitely
phenomenal
put
all
it on
year.
for an East uniform. And then you go to the other side. Dallas Center Grimes, this is their first year in Class 5A. They were 4A in years prior. And this
Mhm.
team is they're balanced. They got a really good offensive line. They're going to want to dictate tempo, and their defense is stingy. Marty, on fumble recoveries and interceptions, they have 22 on the year. 4 have been
Uh-huh.
returned for touchdowns. This is a
Yeah.
team that wins in the trenches, asserts themselves dominantly,
Mhm. Yep.
running the football and plays solid defense. This is going to match up a lot like the game did against Ankeny and a lot like the game did against Johnston for Sioux City East. It's going to be, if you find yourself down at half, can you battle adversity, come back and win in this third and fourth quarters? Can you win in that 8-minute slot that Jepson talked to us about, the 4 minutes before the end of the half and the 4 minutes to start the second half?
Third quarter. Yep.
Those pivotal plays, and then I think special teams goes into the favor of Sioux City East just with Chris Ford. This game is going to be an exciting one to watch. I think both teams are able to get out of the gates firing. They'll settle in second half, and then the real game will really start in that third and fourth quarter. I have East being better by 1 touchdown. I think both teams are very good. Both teams have cases that if they win and Waukee Northwest is able to win their game, I think both these teams have a shot to go to Waukee Northwest and win.
Yeah.
But I got East winning by a touchdown and the score being 21-28. East wins their home for one of their first home playoff games in recent memory. And it should be a good one. I'll be at that game. You'll be at the Healing game. It
Yep.
should be a really good one to watch. But I mean, just the amount of teams that we have in South Dakota, Nebraska, and then 8-man all the way up through 5A in Iowa that have a chance to go to the Dome or go play for a state championship is probably the most that I've seen in recent years.
Yeah, I would
So
agree
so
with
I mean, first off, just kudos to all the high school kids around here that have put on a show for us to be able to watch for these
Yeah.
last 9 weeks or
Yep.
so because it's been one of the funnest football seasons I've covered. So
Yeah.
hopefully they
It's
keep
so
it
fun with
going
it.
and we have more weeks to cover for a lot of these teams. But I'm getting off track here. I like Sioux City East 28-21 against Dallas Center Grimes. Marty, who do you got?
Dallas Center Grimes comes in on a 3-game win streak. Offensively, averaged 27 points a game. You mentioned their defense; they're only allowing 13.3 points a game. They are 4-1 on the road, so they know how to travel and win. And then there's also one common opponent between these two schools, which happens to be Des Moines Roosevelt. Dallas Center Grimes won 39-6, and Sioux City East won 47-6. So, I mean, they're kind of right in line with each other. I think this will be a good game. This would be a fun game to employ game plan on. And my key for East is that defensive line. Pittenger, Ullman, Anderson. inside up front. And then, of course, Brayfogle and Claiborne there on the back end. Brayfogle tier 2 there at linebacker. But McCaffrey's played really well too, so I like his game as well. I have East winning 27 and Dallas Center Grimes 20. So much the same as
All
you.
right, that's similar scores. Yeah, I like kickers to make their PATs, Marty. I don't know
Yeah.
you're selling a lot of these kickers short on making PATs. I got them making their PATs. So a shout out to the kickers.
Yeah.
Kickers
Go
are people
Kickers.
too. No, oh, but
That's right.
I mean that'll wrap up our week 10, if you will.
Yeah.
First full playoff slate. Like I said, I hope that next week that we're talking about the same 8 or 9 teams, and that
Yeah.
each team has
Fantastic.
won their playoff game, and we live to fight another day.
Yep.
Because it's getting down to the nitty gritty, Marty. Like I mean, these teams are I mean, a lot of these kids' bodies have been through the ringer, but
Yeah.
when you look
Yeah.
at the schedule, you go, I have 3 more games in my
Yep.
high school career.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can gut it out for 3 more games.
Yeah. And
And a lot of these kids are
you're
putting
only
their
guaranteed 4 quarters, and
right. And you want to try to play it for at least 12.
there's plenty of teams chasing the basketball around the basketball floor right now that, their seasons have ended. So the special time of year. I love this time of year. Our leaves are changing just at the right time, so we'll be able to enjoy our ride to Cedar Falls when we do that. No, it's been a fun season, great season. We have a lot of quality teams over in our area.
Absolutely. Hope to cover them for more weeks to come. And hopefully we don't turn the switch to basketball season until the
Yeah.
state championship games. But we'll be obviously, paying attention to all the teams in that make it to the state tournament. But again, like to thank our sponsors, Jersey Mike's of Sioux City, Game Day Men's Health of the Dunes, and then our newest sponsor, the Dons, located in South Sioux City and Line Drive here in Sioux City. For Marty Millard, I'm Mitch McCumber, and we will see you next week for another great slate of playoff action.